Hey, welcome to What's Your Mantra?
What's your mantra?
I'm your host, Colleensouza, teacher, coach, wife of 36 years to this fabulous guy right here, a
Lucky man.
realtor with him, a mother of three, and author of the book Living by the Mantras, Common Sense Wisdom for an Extraordinary Life, where we break down all the components to living a great value-based life. And I'm going to let my husband introduce himself.
Brian Souza, husband of 36 years, father of 3 wonderful children, real estate broker, and Mr. Fixman around the house.
Yes, and excellent co-host of a podcast. There you go.
Great to be here, Colleen.
So today we're going to dive in a little bit deeper into a mantra that we've been looking at here in the last few episodes, and it's don't be normal, be yourself. And today we're going to look a little deeper at the power of words. So grab a cup of coffee, a glass of wine, shot of whiskey, sit back and enjoy our conversation. All right. So in episode 1, we unpacked a little bit about what is normal or norms. So what were those, Brian?
Think about the social situations that you're in, that there are certain expectations that are applied to you. For example, when you walk into a library or you go to a wedding or you're in a school situation, there's different expectations that are put upon you in those scenarios.
So we have norms and a normal behavior, which helps a society stay together. Don't get us wrong. But there's so many situations where we don't get to truly be our authentic self because we fall into norms. In episode 2, we talked about the dependent mindset. And that is that place we can get as human beings where we depend on the attitudes, actions, ideas of others more than thinking about what we really, really want and how that can turn us into a little robot or a little follower rather than being an independent-minded leader. So take a listen to that. And as I said, today we're going to talk about the power of words.
Let's get to it.
And whether they are internal, the ones we're having in our head, or the ones we speak out loud. So Brian, talk to us about the power of words.
Well, that's great, Colleen. That's one way of saying that. That's great. That's great. That's great. So think about the connotation of the words that you say. They're really, really important. Also think about the words that you say in your head are very important as well. That's going to be, today's going to be an amazing day. Today's going to be an amazing day. I'm going to have a terrible day today. You know, have that self-talk is going to affect the way that you think.
It's going to affect the way you look at things.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think it's really important. Sometimes you're like, no, it's not going to matter. I didn't say it out loud. We say it to ourselves, it matters. And I immediately jump to some sports analogies. You know, if you've ever played a sport, I've played a sport, whether it's a team of sport or an individual sport. When we walk out onto a field or onto the performance stage, you can be a performer. Maybe you're not an athlete, but
or speaking in front of crowds like you do.
Yeah, when I speak in front of a group, or back in the day when I used to perform, because I'm a musician and play a few instruments. If I walked out on any of those situations, being sure that, oh, that person's in the crowd today, I'm so nervous, or maybe it's a team that your team is going to play and you just know that they are solid. So what you do is, we're going to have a tough time, and even the team talk. So we all have had some circumstance like that we can go, yeah, I walked out there and I wasn't in my best mental game because of what?
Well, I mean,
the words you say, right?
The words you say. So when you think about Olympian athletes, right, that they train for a long, long time for a single moment. And if they don't, on that particular day that they're actually competing for the award, if they don't have the positive self-talk that they can do it, it's possible, I'm going to win. If they have the opposite words go through their mind, the likelihood of them winning that day are pretty low. Yeah. But if they have the positive self-talk, I can do it, I'm going to win, today is my day. And all Olympians, when you study them, that's what they actually do.
Yeah. So it's words can bring positivity versus negativity. We definitely have that. And when we're having this, so let's pull this back to authenticity, okay? So I'm going to take a moment and say, define the word authentic for us.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and use my magic dictionary here, Google, and it says undisputed or origin or genuine. It says that in Greek, it is authenticos. How do you pronounce it, Colleen?
You would pronounce that authenticos.
And it means absolutely genuine. So
Give
original.
me a word, any word.
That's right. Completely authentic means absolutely genuine and real, right?
Okay, so being our authentic self and this whole don't be normal, be yourself, there are times where your authentic self needs to emerge because uh, you need to be contributing that to the world. I think that's the biggest thing. And one of the things that I talk about throughout my book and we talk about on this podcast, and that is far too often we don't let ourselves show through, and we have something to offer. Each and every one of us has something to offer to the world. And if we're not being our authentic self and we're just going with the flow, people aren't going to get that gift of you. I mean, they're not going to get that gift. And that's so important.
I want you to think how unique and genuine you truly are. And you can simply do this by looking at your thumbprint. Your thumbprint is unique. You are created in a way that is absolutely unique to you. You're the only one in this entire world that exists.
With that thumbprint.
With that thumbprint, with who you are 100% authentic. So
That's awesome.
never shortchange yourself on who you are.
That's awesome. That's an awesome way to look at it. And what's important is the words that we say to ourselves sometimes limit that authenticity. And I have a story that I'm going to share. Our daughter, we have 3 kids, 2 daughters and a son. And our middle daughter, Julie, when she was in high school, she graduated from high school in the teens. So back in the day, when she was in high school, they took the SATs and the ACTs, but they did a pre-test. And so at her high school, starting in
Like placement type of
well,
test.
the ACT and they get them right. The SAT and the ACT are college placement exams. They're exams that help when you're applying for school. And in her school district, they would give a pre-version of that test to students. She was an honors English student, so she started doing that as a freshman in high school.
Okay.
What was cool about the ACT exam is not only did it give them a practice of what they might be taking when it finally came time to take that as a senior in high school, but it also gave a career evaluation or potential areas in case that student wasn't sure what they wanted to do with their life, that they're
pursuing as a
consider
career.
pursuing based on the
Yeah.
skills and the answers they were giving in the exam.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those things. Now, our sweet daughter, we always knew Julie was absolutely artistic and creative. We gave the kid a camera at the age of 7, a digital camera, and she would come back not taking pictures of people, but taking pictures of flowers from a perfect angle or a sunset.
For a real estate company, as a teenager, she would take hundreds of photos of hundreds of homes for us.
But we saw them.
Yeah, literally outdo a lot of the professionals. It was amazing.
Well, and she would draw and create. We saw a lot of things in that child. So when she took this pre-ACT exam, the plan test, I think it was called, she would get an evaluation back each time, and it would say that she should go into some sort of applied arts, something artistic, some sort of anything that had to do with the arts. Now, our daughter grew up in a school district where things were about being a professional and going off to college.
Art programs are removed from the school.
Yeah,
basically.
there were no art programs.
Yeah.
And so she'd laugh and go, that's not a career. That's not a profession. And she poo-pooed it, but we kept telling her, sweetheart, it's a professionally designed evaluation of skill sets. And year after year, 3 times that came back. And finally, our daughter started changing the conversation of that's not a career. I can't be a professional at that. I couldn't become something with that. And she, with our help, turned that around to that's what makes my heart sing. This is what makes me happy. This is what I'm gifted at.
And stop for just a second. That in psychology, that's called verbal commitment. So when someone says something out loud and they affirm that, they're verbally committing to something. And that's what she was doing.
Yeah, and we'll come back to that verbal commitment. So she's now a fashion designer. She went to FIT in Manhattan. She became a fashion designer, and she's now a dress designer with a major company. And I don't know.
You want to mention it?
I don't know. She designs dresses for
Big
Old
company.
Navy.
You probably are wearing your dresses.
She designs dresses for Old Navy. But that is my point in that is she was just adamantly against that until she started with the internal conversation. She had to hear herself tell herself,
Absolutely.
that is a gift I have. That is where I'm good. And then turn around and start saying it out loud to us until she felt safe enough to tell her school counselors and other friends who are all going to be pre-med and pre-law and psychology majors, which are wonderful things, but she wanted to do something so very different. And especially coming from where we live, and that wasn't really what students don't go off to do that. It was great to watch how her words had power over creating her authentic self. So that's super, super important. So you were talking a little bit about, say that again. It's
verbal commitment.
Verbal commitment.
And so what's interesting about that is that at first, when you say things out loud that I'm going to be a fashion designer or I'm going to work in the art industry, the belief is low. But as you say those, it's self-affirming, meaning your brain activates to a way that you have belief in the fact that you can do those things.
Right.
And it's true for anything that you do. When I say out loud, it's possible, I can do it.
And I smile and think about, I throw the question out there to anyone that's listening. Can you think of a time where you stated something and then went, holy guacamole, I just said that out loud, and now I'm gonna look like a fool if I don't follow through. That's part of that verbal commitment, because
saying it to others, right? So
none of us want it to show a lack of integrity, and we don't want to look like we're contradicting ourselves. Therefore, and what's funny is we learned that philosophy, that point of reference about that verbal commitment. When Brian and I first met, we were in a speech persuasion class at Fresno State University back when we were young people.
1986.
Yeah, just a few years ago. We're going on 40 of those. When we were in that class, I remember they talked about that. They talked about the fact that, the professor was saying one of the most powerful pieces when you're working in persuasive speech is to get somebody to, if you can get whoever you want to change the way they're thinking, get them to say it out loud, because
or to say yes.
Yeah. He did. He persuaded me to go out with him the first time. So the bottom line in that is that the power of words is ginormous. It's huge. It's a big deal. It's a really big deal.
It truly is.
And when we default to things like, we keep talking about social media, but it's such an important one to use, because whether it's social media or just generally media anymore, everything that comes at us in digital pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And we're seeing somebody's lifestyle, we're seeing somebody's opinion, we're seeing lots of different things. And we have to always ask the question about how authentic is that? And does that match my values? I think that's a huge piece.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because having a mantra is really about having a statement or saying that helps you uphold or sustain a value, at least in our world. It's what our mantras have been, is things that we say and do in our house, in our business, in our life, that help us confirm that we can accomplish whatever the value is. And in this case, it's authenticity. It's being yourself. It could be a plethora of things, and we'll talk about that throughout the podcast, but it's super important.
People ask us all the time, why are our kids so successful? We say we have some common sense values that we basically implemented as parents, and not only with our kids, but with our businesses as well. And watching these kids just thrive has been awesome.
Yeah, it really is. It is. Just yesterday I was chatting and FaceTiming with our middle daughter as she was getting ready for work. I'm an early riser, so as she's getting ready and putting on the makeup, and she was getting dressed, and I was dying laughing because it's been years since I've had her at home, and she was going.
She spent 10 years in New York, and now she's in the West Coast in San Francisco.
Yeah, so she's in the same time zone, but it's been years since I've had her at home, a decade. But the thing that I'm sharing here is that I watched her change 3 times as we were chatting on FaceTime, and I'm having my coffee and doing my wake up routine, and she's doing hers, and I'm laughing because each and every outfit was beautiful, and because she's beautiful and she's got style to the nines. When I said to her, that looks great, and she goes, are you just saying that so that I'll stop changing? Or, she goes, I've always been this way. Then she shared, oh yeah, well, she was New York style queen for a decade. She lived back in New York, and it is a little more casual in San Francisco. She didn't want to change who she was. She loves being stylish. And she pointed out that she had somebody tell her, well, you're so very stylish. And she said, well, I was raised to believe, and this is a phrase I used as they were growing up, wake up, show up. Well, wake up, dress up, and show up. Wake up, dress up, and show up. Meaning, get yourself out of bed, get yourself set for the day, and then show up and do what you need to do. But when to piggyback on words and the power of them, that's just something that I said over and over again. It's not even one of the mantras in the book, but it's one that stood out in her life.
There's hundreds of mantras.
But she remembered that, and she just verbatim goes, and she grinned at me and winked in the camera when she said that, because that's just something that shows the power of words. I think it comes back down to it, and that's really super important. So
at some point we'll talk about walk with a purpose, which she did.
Yeah,
in New York, right?
yeah. That's a whole nother episode, honey.
Yep.
I have a quote that came from Ralph Waldo Emerson, who is an author
Beautiful.
and writer. And he was an author and writer at the turn of the 20th century. So in case you get confused on that phrase, that means back in the early 1900s as we turned toward the 20th century. And he is quoted as saying, to be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is one of life's greatest accomplishments. To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something different is one of the greatest accomplishments. Here's the deal. We want to say social media and all the pressures, but this was back in the turn of the century.
The newspapers were new.
Yeah, exactly. Well, when we were still, when radio was new for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the bottom line is, it's not new to the human condition to feel the pressure to conform.
Yep.
And I think that that's super important to throw out there. I mean, can you think of a time where that you stepped out of the norm and did something authentic and it brought you success? Doesn't have to be big and dramatic, or it could be, or something small. Because I would say you're a person who is constantly being authentic.
I think starting the real estate business, coming from a job, 8 to 5 job, where I had benefits and salary, to a real estate business where I get paid zero, with no benefits and no salary, no guarantees. So that was a big move.
That was.
Yeah.
But it was what your heart always said you wanted to do.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, I wanted to help a lot of people.
So you were passionate about it, and it worked out.
Yep.
And I think that is super valuable and a good example to anyone that's paying attention or listening today. It doesn't have to be something huge. It could be something small. Like maybe, this is a career change and you're like, yeah, well, that's big, but maybe your authentic self just wants to speak up more in a meeting, or your authentic self wants to not be nervous to go take some of the flowers from your garden or vegetables or whatever to a neighbor, or just go meet somebody or make new friends. There's
maybe
just
it's as simple as you're in the grocery line and you're talking to the person that's the teller there, the what do you call that, the clerk, right? Just to look up and say, how are you doing today? And just ask the question.
Yeah, he says that because when he first met me, I couldn't do that. I couldn't make eye contact with people, and I didn't have that empowerment about me. And he talked to me.
Now she speaks in front of thousands.
Yeah, now I have zero problem in front of people. But that eye contact and that experience, that was
Small steps.
He saw that was authentically me, that I wanted to get to know people and communicate in that way, but I just had not developed the strength to do it, and so I did. And that's
amazing.
Super important. So we're going to go to the book. I try to end each little episode by talking about a couple of things that you could find if you read Living by the Mantras, Common Sense Wisdom for an Extraordinary Life, because it's really what's your mantra is based on. And that is, number one, reflect on your true self, okay? So this week, going into this week, as you're listening to this, stop and find a way to record. Could be a journal, could be Post-it notes. We talk about, there's 1,000 different ways. It could be, I often have ongoing lists of things to do on the little word Post-it note thing on my phone, whatever it is. But find a way to figure out when you are the happiest. And all I'm asking you to do is just to record that, write that down. No, you can't. In that, so that you can identify when you are at your best. When you have that moment where you're just, oh, this is good, or that makes you happy, or just have that warm, fuzzy feeling, find a way to jot down what you were doing when that happened. Because sometimes people are like, I don't know when I'm the happiest, or I don't know when I'm the most authentic. when there is a joy within us at any level,
Mm-hmm.
that is pretty much that is an example of our authenticity right there. So now interject. Are you going to give us a good way to do that, Brian?
I'm going to give you a great practical way to do this.
I knew Mr. Practical Business Guy was going to throw that in there. I just want to get my thought out.
We have these in our hands a lot now, right? And so often we do selfies, but how often do you do a selfie video speaking to yourself? So maybe you don't have the time to write down a journal, but you have this in your hand. You can record a video of yourself saying the things that you just mentioned.
That's really super good. That is good. Good job, Brian. And I was about to say something that I do that's really simple. If I'm in a hurry, I'll text myself. If somebody says something, if I hear a quote, if I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to do that later, I know it'll show up in that red dot that won't go away till I take care of it. So that's another way. But more important is you're looking for those moments where you realize that makes me feel good. That's right. That's peaceful. That's happy. And what would be the reason to do that? Well, it would help us begin to identify if these are the things, if there is a pattern, then maybe this is more authentically me, and how can I live that every day? So number 2, shift your words. Since we're talking about the power of words, it goes from that's weird to that's different. The two of those say, if you see something that you are absolutely like, ugh, or a person or whatever it is, and you so shut that down, you're never going to see the value in it. And the same thing in yourself, just shift the words you're having.
That's a different point of view I hadn't considered.
Yeah.
You think about points of view as really common right now. We grew up in an era where agree to disagree, right? So that's fine. Have that opinion. That's wonderful. That's a different point of view I hadn't considered.
Right. And it's okay that you have it. But in that, sometimes too, if you're really being authentic and you can realize you oppose something, you don't have to be angry that somebody else has it, but it helps you once again come back and reflect on your true self, because if you know that's not right for you, then you'll seek something else that is. So it's really important. So turn those words around. Find the negative.
So important.
And find a positive or more authentic way to not only speak to others, but speak to yourself. That's super big. And then there's setting boundaries. That's number 3, setting boundaries, because truthfully, it's okay to say no to things. Brian, what do you say?
No is a full sentence.
He loves that. No is a complete sentence.
It surely is.
But it's also okay at times to establish boundaries that keep those things that truly are not authentically you further away. At the same time, open up. Setting boundaries is also opening them up. If you are realizing you've put yourself into a little box and you need to set new boundaries to make that bigger, because you're not giving yourself the freedom to go try and do things.
Protect your time. Really do that.
Does protect your time. So boundaries can be things that get bigger or smaller, but whatever they are, as you are identifying that true self and you're watching the words you use, also watch the way you spend your energies and time in those boundaries. And then last but not least, it's find support. Find support, because whether it's one person, 2 people, or a team, if you have accountability partners,
people that build you up, people that encourage you, people that support you.
And it could be a true human relationship. And as Brian has shared in some of the other episodes,
it could be a book.
It can be somebody that you follow.
Podcast.
It's affirming words on a podcast or in a book you read, so that you're being reminded constantly that you're headed in the right direction. So one challenge this week. So those are things to think about. Your challenge this week is to find one spot in your life where you can be truly authentic.
Write it down, make a video, put it on a poster, write it on the bathroom mirror.
One spot in your life this week you can be truly authentic. And in that, then celebrate it. Take note of it. Video how you feel about it. Write down how you feel about it. Share with that accountability person or group, hey, this is what I did, because that helps us grow. And the more positive energy we put into our lives, the more authentic we get to be.
Yeah. So going back to Colleen's journal idea, a lot of people write down journals of things they're going to do. Not very many people write down things that they have accomplished. So if you keep a celebration journal or an authentic journal.
You can say authenticity.
Authenticity.
Good job. He's been struggling with that
Journal.
word. He's like, don't make me say that word on the camera. He just did it. Good job.
The way that you came forward in a situation that you were going to, and you actually made it happen. Be proud of yourself. Write that down. Maybe remake that video. I did it. And congratulate yourself. Go back to that verbal commitment that you made that happen.
Absolutely.
And give yourself a little bit of a pat on the back by writing it down or recording it in a way that you can go back to and see that you've accomplished things.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm just drawn to, I don't mean to regress in any way, but I do remember a coach that I worked with at one time had me just take a piece of paper and kind of do line down the middle. And on one side, then whether you're working on the words part or you're working on experience, write down how something is less than what you want it to be, and then how you can turn it around. So every time you catch yourself saying that they're so weird, what's something you can say? They're so unique, or that's a different way of looking at it. And so that you begin to spin those words or spin those actions. This is something I always do. And I finally found a way to be more authentically myself in the situation at work or with my family or with my friends. So those are excellent things. So if you like the mantra we use, don't be normal, then we highly encourage you to take it and grab it and use it as a reminder on how to be your authentic self. But if it's not your word, or you have something else that works better, then we ask you.
The big question is, what's your mantra?
What's most important is that you come up with a phrase, quote,
you can be creative.
Whatever it is that allows you to remember that you have the ability to stick to the values that you have chosen.
So important.
So we want you to grab hold of those mantras and use them. If you enjoy our podcast, then we ask you, if you're watching this on YouTube, then subscribe and follow us and do all the little bells and whistles and thumbs up things that you need to do.
Ask a question below if you had a question during the process. We'll be happy to answer those questions for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you're listening to this just on audio because you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or one of those fabulous places, then please, follow, share us.
Share it with someone that came to your mind while you're listening. That's so important because maybe that person needs to hear this podcast, and you could be the one that has an opportunity to do that.
Positively.
Yeah.
Positively. And then also you can go to livingbythemantras.com. livingbythemantras.com. And on there's right at the top of the page, this fabulous guy has all my social medias right there, and you can follow the things that we're doing. You can take a look at other podcast conversations I've had, follow our podcast, order the book, whatever you'd like to do. But we are so glad that you joined us here at What's Your Mantra? And we'll see you next time. Have a good one.
Bye.